Welcome back, America. Well, yes or no, America, should Iran have a nuclear bomb? We actually have people in this country who aren't that worried about it. In fact, they're more worried about people who say Iran should not have a nuclear bomb by hook or by crook. Insanity, in my view. We have with us Victoria Coates. She's with the Heritage Foundation, Vice President for National Security. She also served as President Trump's National Security, Deputy National Security Advisor during his first term, and served as the top National Security Advisor to Ted Cruz, has a very powerful resume. Victoria Coates, if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, why does it endanger the lives of American citizens directly, putting aside every other country, Americans?
Well, good to be with you, Mark. And that's really the critical question here is why should America care about this issue? And President Trump has been very clear that he will not tolerate a nuclear weapon in the hands of the Iranian regime. And the answer to why he won't tolerate that is because it does pose a direct threat to the United States. Iran has been chanting death to America and death to Israel for almost 50 years now, and the Supreme Leader has said that that's not just a slogan, that's a policy, and he is responsible for the deaths of Americans in Beirut, in Iraq, in Latin America, and in the October 7th attacks. The attacks on Israel, but also America, have been relentless. And at the same time, Iran has been deploying increasingly sophisticated weapons systems over the decades this regime has been in power. And so I think that they have been willing to do that. They've been willing to pour resources into developing a delivery mechanism in the form of an intercontinental ballistic missile. Then they could use it. They could provide it to a terrorist proxy. What if Hamas had a backpack bomb on October 7th? What would that have looked like for the American citizens caught up in that? And God forbid they were able to reach the continental United States. That's why the Golden Dome that the president has proposed is so important. But in the meantime, the best path is to prevent them from getting a bomb in the first place.
And let's say they chose not to use a bomb right away. Could they not blackmail us? In other words, they promote acts of terrorism, their economy gets stronger and stronger, they're able to sell their oil on the open market, we would lift the sanctions as part of some deal perhaps, and they could fund much more terrorism. We have people in this country and that country that talk about ceasefire, so Hamas would live, Hezbollah would survive, the Houthis would be shooting missiles, Iran would be well on its way and have a nuclear weapon. And what would this do to United States policy, whether it's economic policy, geopolitical policy, the movement of our ships as an example, and the constant blackmail and threats of the American people?
No, it would be a disaster in the Middle East, yes, but more globally. And the connection here, I think, is really critical for your audience, is the connection between Iran and China. Because what we've had over the course of the Biden administration was, yes, the establishment of the Partnership Without Limits between Russia and China in March of 2022. But the previous year, the first year of the Biden administration, we had a major deal inked between China and Iran, which they have expanded. So China is essentially controlling both Russia and Iran economically, so they're going to do China's bidding. So even if they're just at a nuclear threshold state, Iran is essentially a surrogate for China doing their dirty work in the region to undermine us. Yes, indeed, but then also Israel, Saudi, our other regional allies, and put them on the path potentially for nuclear weapons to defend themselves against Iran.
What do you say to those? Look, there's a lot of reprobates out there, so I'm trying to address some of the lies they put out there. What do you say to those who say, yeah, we heard all this before with Iraq, the weapons of mass destruction. We shouldn't believe the Australian intelligence, the American intelligence, the United Nations, the IAEA, the rest of the Europeans, the Israeli intelligence. They're all liars. They're all wrong. They're always wrong. They just want to drag us into a war. When we come back, Victoria Coates, how do we respond to that? We'll be right back.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.